Everybody. My name is Neha Shukla. I am a research assistant at Curtin University. I work alongside with Dr. Cindy Smith, and I'm also.
How do we? Hold on, Neha. We're not hearing you.
Yeah.
How do we make her louder?
She wants to speak?
Yes, she's speaking now.
Yeah, ask her to speak.
Okay.
Can you speak, ma'am?
Hello. Can you hear me?
1 second. Yeah, can you speak now?
Yes. Hello. Mic check.
1 second. Can you speak now?
Hello.
Once again.
Yes. Can we hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Nice. Do you want me to go first, Cindy? Cool.
Yes, if you could introduce yourself. That would be great.
Change the slides.
This way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Neha Shukla, and I'm a research assistant at Curtin University. I have been working on this project for the past 2 years, almost 2 years now, with Dr. Ann Smith. And I'm also a certified behavior analyst and a registered teacher here in Australia. That's about me. I'll let Cindy take over.
Thank you, Neha. And thank you all for allowing us to present today. I do want to, before we go on, I want to acknowledge that this research was conducted on the traditional land of the Whadjuk Noongar people, and we want to pay respects to them for their connections between land and community. We especially want to recognize the people in their community and all of our communities who contribute to the richness of our societies because of their neurodiversity. Okay, I also want to, I'm going to see if I can move Neha a little bit over here so that we can see the slides and see her. Yeah. So we were very, very fortunate, very fortunate, because this is an ongoing project we have a very big research team. So we have people from different disciplines, which made it really important. And we also have several of our research assistants who are actually international students themselves and from different cultures. So what we are trying to do in this is to understand about the mental health needs of international students. We know that when you travel to another country to go to school for any reason, as an immigrant, it can be very stressful. There's all these different kinds of things that different cultures to embrace, different languages, different understanding, being away from home, all of those sorts of things. This research was funded by Bupa Insurance, and they wanted to know, again, what can we do? One of the things when we were agreeing to take on this research, I'm not. Okay, now I'm stuck. Now I'm not going anywhere. Now I'm stuck. Okay. I'll keep talking. We'll get our slides figured out. But one of the things that when we were speaking for Bupa, because Bupa actually gave money to several different universities in Australia in different years. And as Neha said, about 3 years ago, it became our turn, Curtin's turn. So we looked at the presentations from what the research that the other Australian universities had done around international students. And one of the things that I noticed was that everybody talks about the problems, the mental health problems of international students, but we hadn't really done a lot about it. We've identified that there is a problem, but we didn't see a lot of interventions. Now, as part of this project, one of the things that we did, that we are in the process of doing, is conducting a systematic review. I'm having trouble getting the slides to advance. Oh, now it is. Okay, go back. So,
This right and left. You can use.
okay, great. So when we started, like I said, as part of what we were doing was conducting a systematic review. And we ended up with, we had conducted that, we thought we'd gotten to a good place with that. We had about 76 studies, and we were limiting it to just studies that looked at some type of intervention. And we had interventions, there was, cognitive behavior therapy, there was meditation, there was a lot of different things. There was one where they brought llamas onto campus to, help with students to make them less stressed, all sorts of things. But then we decided we needed to recheck, before we finished and see what had been, recently published. We got 9,000 hits. We've got 9,000 articles. Part of this, I think a lot of these are things that have been published since COVID, which we know that was a huge issue, around mental health around the whole world. The good news, I think, is that we are paying attention. We are understanding that our mental health is at risk, and especially with international students, that this is something that we need to look at. We're a little bit overwhelmed. We're in the process now of screening those 9,000 articles. Fortunately, we have a big research team, but we want to see, we're not seeing a lot of interventions. We're seeing a lot of talking about it, but we're not seeing the interventions. So what we are trying to do is, from this information that we're getting, is really understand what kind of intervention, what kind of supports do the international students need. So this is a mixed method study. What I'm reporting on today is our qualitative data, quite a bit of our qualitative data. We also looked at our theoretical framework, and as if you all that are qualitative researchers understand that sometimes the theoretical framework will arise from the data, and sometimes it changes. We started out using chat. If you're familiar with chat, that's used a lot in education, and it looks at the historical context and how the systems work together, the learner and the teacher, and how that intersects. But as we are looking at all this, and as we are looking at the qualitative data and listening to our international students, we're finding that structural reform theory looks like it's going to be very relevant. The idea, because what we're finding is that there's a lot of barriers into the systems, and I'm sure you may see the same thing in your university. The university says, oh, well, we have this, we have these opportunities for the students, but maybe the students don't know about it. Maybe we're in the silos. Maybe it's hard for the students to access this. So that's why we thought that we've got to change the structure of the system to really impact our students. So we have, and again, in these systems, and we're finding, if you think about a lot of the things that's going on in the world, now there's a lot of very rigid systems. And this theory looks at trying to reduce some of the rigidity, trying to find out what the problems are in those systems and how we can make differences. But what's important is that it's done with the stakeholder input. Neha, would you like to tell us a little bit about the research questions that we have here?
Sure. Thanks, Cindy. So with all the articles, all the journal articles that we went through, and we narrowed our research down to a few, and then we came up. So the research questions that we focused on then were what supports do international students would need to succeed academically while at Curtin University. So the supports would include mental health, their well-being, which is overall well-being, and other supports they might need. So we will discover other supports later on in the presentation. Are there different supports needed for international students across different groups, such as ethnic, cultural, and religious, genders, and disability, and other groups? Because everybody comes from a different culture, so the supports needed for everybody is different. They're different to what an Australian student would need, and a student traveling from overseas would need. So, according to the perceptions of international students, in what ways are those supports needs being met through Curtin University? And this question really relates to because support might be in place for one student, but it might not be in place for other student according to where they're from. According to the perceptions of international students now, what supports could be added then to Curtin University to better meet the needs of those students? So these are the key questions that we focused on when we looked at developing those interventions with the students in the focus groups.
So we had a series of focus groups, and these were the initial questions that we ask our students. Something that we tried to keep in mind too is that oftentimes we think of when we say university students, or we say international university students, or even if we say traditional age university students or mature age university students, we tend to think of these people in homogeneous groups, so that they're all alike, they all have the same problems, and we know that is not true. All of you all that have worked in areas of mental health, that as human beings, there's so much intersectionality of and our culture, our background, our gender, even our birth order. All of these things makes a difference. So we tried to keep that in mind. So we tried to get the students to tell us about what is stress for you. Something that may be stressful for me may not be stressful for them at all. Maybe, if you take that away, then it may be boring. They may enjoy, having, for instance, you might have one student who says, I need to be able to study more. I need to be able to have more units, more classes all at once, because that keeps me motivated. Another student say, oh, that is so stressful because I have to do so much at once. So we wanted to understand, what does stress mean to them, not necessarily to us. We also wanted to know if there was barriers, that they found that made it difficult to do their university work. And we wanted to understand, especially if those barriers or those stresses was different for international students than it might have been for domestic students. So after we asked them these questions, we said, have you, in these things that caused problems or caused you stress, have you asked for help? Have you found help? And why or why not? One of the things that I noticed in one of the focus groups we had, there was this young woman that, if you ran focus groups, sometimes it's hard to get maybe hard to get people to talk. Sometimes it's hard to get people to stop talking so that everybody has a chance to talk. But there was this one young woman who talked and talked and talked. And then I noticed all the other students were taking notes because she had found ways to get around. She had found ways to get around the parking issue. She had found ways to access the student health facilities, which a lot of the other students said, I don't know. They keep saying that there's these, these things that we can do. There's a clinic, but I don't know where it's at, or I don't know how to get there. Or I just, I call on this telephone number and nobody answers, or nobody calls me back. And she had figured all this out, and so they were all taking notes. And So it was interesting to me that there was a different level of accessibility and what they were able, to do or not. So some of the preliminary things that came out of these are some of the things that you would expect. There was a lot of frustration with our university systems. They wanted to talk to a real person. They didn't want to just be referred to this, kind of blanket email, where you get this automated thing. Thank you for your question. We will get back to you as soon as possible, because you feel like there's nobody out there. Feeling homesick, this extreme homesickness. Australia, and especially Perth, where we're at, where this is done, Perth is the most isolated city in the world. I've been in Perth for 8 years. It's a beautiful city. I love it there. But when I first, it's far away from every place. When I first got there, somebody told me that the #1 pastime in Perth was looking for cheap flights anywhere. Because we want to go somewhere, we want to go to different places. So, international students who come, and they come from a long ways away. Sometimes their family, all of their extended family have pooled all of their money, their resources to pay their tuition so they can go there and study and have a better life. So there's a lot of pressure, on them, besides the fact that they don't have anybody there. There's a lot of pressure on them to do well. We had some instances of students who were living in homestay, and one young woman had been sexually assaulted, and she was afraid to tell anybody. She was afraid to reach out for help, because the shame was so bad. We also found that there was tremendous resilience, determination. And the students felt like that it was their responsibility to just work harder. It wasn't so much that they didn't feel like it was an option or something they should do, to reach out for help. They just had to work harder and do better and try harder. So then, Neha, could you talk a little bit about the second series of focus groups we did and why we decided to do that?
So after we did the first focus groups, I thought they will be enough, but there was just a lot of students who were talking, and they had a lot of problems that came along with talking to them. So we asked for their feedback, and we wanted to run another one, and then we put out the expression of interest. And then we saw how many students were willing to enroll in it, and there were quite a few. So we asked for their feedback on the academic stresses and personal stresses and the barriers they're facing and social capital, personal strategies that they have developed, and impact of COVID on their education. Now, when we with the findings, when the focus groups were done, and we decided to include the students to give us like what do they think, and what do they think would be the best strategy to support them, because we can come up with our strategies, but then it's not fair that we put those in place and then they're not helpful for the students. So we came up with these headings or topics, like academic stresses. So these are the dialogues. Sorry, these are the dialogues from the students. So one of them says, during the exam, it's just very high stress, and the exams are on the same day within 24 hours, and they also have their assessments due within that time limit. So they're very stressed that there is exam and the assessments. Some of them are just in a pressure of earning money because they're from overseas, and there is a lot of I'm sorry, there's a lot of gap. Like the economy is different in every country, and there's a lot of gap there. So some of them are just are struggling through the financials of the system and to get to fit. Some of them just don't have friends. So and there's some of them were also impacted by COVID severely, because when COVID hit, the universities didn't have anybody here. There was just a bare land and nobody to talk to, and the students were just coming in and working on the laptops and computers, and they didn't make real friends or anything. So the COVID had impacted their mental health. So these are all the things that they spoke about it. Now, could we go on to the next slide, Cindy?
Okay. So let me just say a
Yeah.
couple more things about this, Neha, and then we'll go on. So these were the general things that we found, and like I said, there was some things that we felt maybe would have been stressors that really weren't for the students. We also found that there was a difference in the different cultural groups of the students. So students maybe that were from Asian cultures, students that were from Eastern Europe, or students that were from the Middle East. They had different, their value systems, their culture, what they were used to, their family, the way they interacted with their families was very different. And that was very important. We also, so that got us to thinking that we needed to have supports that was not just for international students, but specific supports or maybe specific groups for those different cultural groups of students that might be important. So these were some of the things at another group of focus groups that we did. We said, okay, so from the data, these are some things that it sounds like might be useful to you. So what do you think? We put it to the students, said, do you think that are these things, would they be useful? We had some students who said, yes, I want to be able to connect on WhatsApp. I need to be able to, to reach out to people. And other students said, no, we have enough online stuff. I want to talk to a real person. I want to be able to be in a room and interact with other students. We had some students who said, I'd like to have a group that's, for instance, we had a Vietnamese student said, I would like to connect with other people from Vietnam. We had Chinese students who said, I'd like to connect with other people, from China who's in a different, or who's in a similar culture with me. Other people said, why would I come to another country if I'm only going to meet people that are like me? I want to meet Australian students. I want to be able to meet Australian families. So there was much different needs that the students had. And so some of the things that we thought, again, in our infinite wisdom, that we thought this is what our students need. Some of them, they said, yeah, okay. Some of them, they said, no, you've got it all wrong, which I think highlights the importance of staying, keeping the students involved, keeping all of our stakeholders involved as we develop these supports, for them. Something else that we noticed through this, and we gave Curtin has a section called Curtin Global. So it's all they do all sorts of things of working with international students, working with international research, all different kinds of things. Anything if it involves another country, Curtin Global, is around it. And so we took some of these things to them, and they said, we already do this. We have a drop-in space. And we're like, and Neha was in that meeting with me, and we looked at each other and like, where is it at? We've never heard of it. So we found that even though the university, that goes back to these systems, changing the systems, even though the university felt like that they were doing a lot, to support international students, it wasn't really getting to the students that needed the help. So there was these institutional barriers. Again, that was, that was a problem. So this project, like I said, is ongoing. And we are currently, I think we've done most of our focus groups. Now we're analyzing this data. Neha is involved and one of the people that's a little bit overwhelmed in trying to get all of our systematic review and trying to get all of our data analyzed. our next step is to take this information to our university, to the different areas, and say, these are the things that we found that would support our international students, and how can you help us? How can you change their supports? How can you provide more funding to us to actually provide these supports? I would be really interested in your feedback, from this. We put this cute little QR code in here so that all you have to do is just aim your phone at it. It tells your name and your email and said, yes, I'd like to connect, and tell me a little bit about what your discipline is, or what kind of things that you have found. Do you have international students? Do you have students that are stressed? And what kind of things have you found that work in your university? And how could you connect with us so that we can work with all of our students, support all of our international students across the world? Because as we know, our world is getting smaller and smaller. Today we've got many people from all around the world. We've got different cultures and languages and disciplines represented. And the only way that we are going to support our students, support all of the mental health issues that have been mentioned today, is that we all work together. So thank you very much.